Ever wanted to experience the Marvel Cinematic Universe of RPGs? The Trails series is exactly that. More specifically, The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie is the Avengers Endgame of RPGs. It's the culmination of 3 different sub-series within Trails and 2 decades worth of meticulous storytelling, easily totaling over 100 hours of gameplay time between its story, combat, and post-game activities. Despite a bloated cast of characters resulting from combining the expansive Trails series, impeccable pacing makes every event and interaction manageable. With its politically engaging yet somewhat disappointingly familiar story and strategically fun turn-based gameplay, it's one of the best role-playing games of 2023.
Get on! Noelle!
Reverie is able to pack so much content in because its overarching story is split into 3 routes, each with a different main character. By switching between perspectives, it's able to keep its various plot twists and revelations fresh. It never felt like the story was lingering on one particular route too long before having to make progress on another.
Is this a bit?
Fans of the Trails series will undoubtedly recognize the first protagonist, Rean Schwarzer. It was a bit tiresome to play as him again after he was the star of several Cold Steel games. In particular, the story around him involving some worldwide catastrophe in Cold Steel 4 was messy and convoluted. However, Reverie redeems Rean by giving him a much more focused storyline for his route. The second protagonist, Lloyd Bannings, surprisingly has the weakest route of the 3. His impressive origin story in the Crossbell duology, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, is a great one about him in the special support section fighting for the city of Crossbell's independence. However, Reverie retreads that same story, making Lloyd's route a bit boring compared to the other 2. It's also central to Reverie's overall story, which is a little disappointing since we've seen it all before. The third route follows a new character named C, and it's easily the best Reverie has to offer. Much of the mystique in C's cast comes from all of their unknown backgrounds and amazing chemistry. C, the one adult in the group, wears a mask and a deep voice modulator.
I go by C. I am the leader of the Reborn Imperial Liberation Front.
What's his true identity? Swin and Abel and Nadia Rain are both child assassins, but why were they roped into a dangerous profession at such a young age? And while Swin and Nadia had to grow up fast in order to survive, their amnesiac companion Lapis has this innocent childlike curiosity about the world. Their mix of personalities is incredibly entertaining, and the interactions between them are always fun to watch. You can switch between the 3 main characters at any time using the cleverly named timeline system Trails to Walk, but there are certain points in each that remain locked until you've made progress on another route. For example, in one section, both Lloyd and C have to work together in order to make their way through 2 different facilities as their respective locking mechanisms work in tandem. These mechanics made the 3 stories feel intertwined, but also allowed space for their individual stories to shine. Reverie does have an issue with a massively bloated cast. However, it manages to give everybody relatively equal amounts of the limelight, and in doing so, it allows people to interact with each other where they never could in their respective Origin games. It's moments like these where Trails into Reverie felt like fanfiction done right. However, by its very nature, it's not an approachable game for newcomers. The story fully expects you to know who these characters are, and it's a daunting task, but it's highly recommended to play all the other games before Trails into Reverie. It's worth it.
Come!
Trails is one of the most meticulously designed battle systems in any RPG series, and Reverie is no exception. You can have up to 4 different party members on the field at one time, but other characters in your active party can be switched in and can also provide support from the sidelines. There's quite a lot of nuance that goes into the different options you have during battle, from freely positioning your characters on the battlefield to managing a turn order timeline. You have a high degree of freedom in how you can approach and dictate the flow of battles.
Divine Crusade!
A particularly satisfying aspect of combat is how you can use certain attacks, called crafts, to not just impact a character's placement on the move order timeline, but also expose them to bonus damage effects. If an enemy's timeline icon shows a critical hit effect, that's an opportunity to delay that enemy's turn so that the turn order changes to one of your characters, thus guaranteeing a critical hit. These incentives were engaging throughout the entire campaign's worth of battles, especially on higher difficulties. One wrong move and the enemy could wipe out your party, but overcoming a challenging boss is immensely rewarding.
Roar! Healing strike!
As a whole, the Trails series emphasizes the theme of teamwork, and Reverie's battle system has a few other cool features to reinforce that. You can launch follow-up attacks with an ally, as well as all-out attacks where all 4 party members pile up on the enemies, which is similar to Persona's take on the same idea. But that's nothing compared to the newly introduced United Front attacks, in which your entire party rushes in from off-screen to attack. It's a great way to show camaraderie through gameplay, not just in the cutscenes and story.
All for one, and one for all!
There are also orders, which are party-wide buffs that can turn the tide of battle, such as decreasing incoming damage by 60%. However, bosses can also launch their own disorders, which have similar effects like reducing your party's damage output, and they'll also cancel your current order in the process. Disorders are a great way to dynamically shift the momentum back toward a boss and keep battles exciting. Reverie also has a bunch of customization options for how you can build out your characters. You can equip them with gems, called quartz, that boost stats, provide additional abilities, or teach new attacks. There's no role that characters can't be tailored toward, be it a healer or magic user, and optimizing their quartz can be engrossing for hours. In a game that's so focused on characters, it's important that they look convincing, and Reverie does its cast justice. Character animations are an admirable improvement over previous Trails games. In particular, characters look less stilted and don't awkwardly move their limbs when walking or wave their arms around while talking. Reverie's soundtrack is excellent too. Reen, Lloyd, and C all have different battle themes, and they fit appropriately and reinforce their respective characters. Reen's electric guitar-heavy theme reflects the energy that he embodies during battle, while Lloyd sounds like an anthem, fitting for a nationalistic hero like himself. C's theme incorporates more piano, giving it a more graceful feeling to match his calm demeanor.
Much had been taken from us in that bitter conflict.
Off to the side of the main quest, there's a randomized dungeon called the Reverie Corridor. Here, all three protagonists and their parties have been whisked away to a different dimension where they can interact, but there's some crazy memory wiping that goes on to prevent them from spilling secrets when they return to their own worlds. It's a weird but very clever way to have all the characters in one place before the finale. Reverie Corridor's randomized nature is similar to that of Persona 5's Mementos. You'll fight through a few floors and then battle bosses at the mid and end points. There's also a gacha system, but don't worry, there are no microtransactions or real-world currency involved at all. Some of those rewards include extra characters who appeared in past Trails games but didn't have a presence in the main story. You're only required to progress through the first two stratums as part of the main story, but afterward, you're free to put it off for as long as you want. The Reverie Corridor is the only aspect of Trails of Reverie that feels a bit out of place in the story. However, there's plenty of post-game content that unlocks more stratums and reveals extra story context behind the Reverie Corridor, as well as a final post-game boss and an additional ending. That serves as a fantastic send-off for these combined series and an exit ramp to tell new Trails stories in the future.
I got you!
It's over!
Thanks, Sally. I know I can always count on you.
The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie is one of the best games in this almost 20-year-old franchise and a great RPG. Even if its story is a bit of a retread, its amazing pacing and in-depth battle system make it a satisfying conclusion to the Crossbell and Cold Steel arcs. It also makes good use of its admittedly way too large cast of playable characters. That said, newcomers who are unfamiliar with the series will certainly be lost without having played the previous games. However, it's well worth doing so in order to experience one of the best RPG universes ever crafted. For more, check out our reviews of East 9, Monstrum Nox, and Honkai Star Rail, and for everything else, stick with IGN.